This week on Barely Homesteading, finishing up our chicken coop. So this week, we're finishing up the chicken coop. We're going to talk about installing the fencing, putting in the nesting boxes, and installing the perches inside. The next part of the chicken area that we're going to do is the fencing. And the reason we're going to do the fencing is because on the back of the chicken coop, we're going to overlay the paneling on top of the fencing to give a little bit better seam there between the two. And so before I can finish the paneling on the back, we got to get the fencing up. Going to build the same kind of gate as we've built for the garden and the orchard, using these brackets of a gate kit that you can buy at the big box stores, and then we'll put the fencing on top of that. All right, it looks like I messed up when I measured the side boards for the gate. I only subtracted one board instead of two, and so now we're too tall to fit in the gap. So we're going to have to take part of this gate apart, cut the boards, and then put it back together. Next, we're working on the nesting boxes. Now, these nesting boxes are going to be a little different than what we did in Colorado. We're actually going to make them roll away boxes. so that when the hen lays the egg will roll down into a smaller tray where the hen can't get to it, so that they're not defecating on it or breaking it or pecking it. And so the entire nesting box, the bottom of it, will be at a slope. Now we're going to put it at a 10-degree slope and see if that works. Well, we're going to do this entire thing with screws so that if there's a problem, we can come back and easily adjust it. We're going to be building this out of smaller lumber, not 2x4s, because we don't need it that big. So the bottom frame is actually going to be made out of 2x3s, and then the rest of it will be 2x2s. I've already cut the notch for the 10-degree angle in the 2x3s, so we're going to just put that together for the bottom frame. Now that we have the bottom frame all installed, we're going to use a piece of paneling for the bottom floor. We're going to attach this to the bottom of the frame. We're using paneling because it's thinner. It's already good for outside, so if it gets a little wet on the bottom, it won't be a problem. And we have a bunch of it, so that's what we're going to use. So right now this is pretty sturdy, but I'm worried about this carrying a snow load because we get some snow here that doesn't tend to leave. So we're going to put some bottom bracing on this just to make it even sturdier. With what we have right now, it would do chicken loads no problem. But with the snow, I'm just concerned enough that we're going to do this bottom bracing. With the bottom supports on, we're ready to build the frame for the top. This will give us something to screw the paneling to for the sides and be able to rest the top lid on. I've already cut the top pieces, so we're going to get them installed. Then we'll measure the distance for the side pieces and the front, and then we'll be ready to attach all of that. All right, for the lid for the nesting boxes, what we did is we've got a piece of paneling, and then under the lip of the paneling, we've got 2x2s all the way around. The reason for that is so that a small animal can't lift this up and squeeze between the gap, and a big animal obviously would have to tear the whole thing off in order to get through. And unless bears and squirrels are working together, things aren't going to be able to get through this just by lifting it up within the clearances or the spacing between the latches and things. So we're going to get this attached, and then on top of this we're going to put on some plastic corrugated roofing material to shed the water off so that it doesn't sit on this panel. One other thing I forgot to mention is back here, it's not just a panel. I've put in some 2x2s that we have so that we can actually screw the hinge into so that we get a solid connection with the hinge. So it's not just the thickness of the paneling, but we're going to actually go into the 2x2 and into the 2x4 in the wall. with the roof on, we're gonna close out for today. We got some other things we need to do. We're gonna have to put the cover on the egg catching area, for lack of a better term. And then we've got a little bit of work to do up here on the roof, because with the corrugated roofing, the lid won't lift up because the upper corrugations are interfering with the wall. So we got to come in and do some trimming there so that we can actually open this up. But we're almost done with the nesting boxes. Now we're going to attach the latches to these front doors. To do that, we've got to build up this front support with a piece of paneling so that it's flush with the paneling of the door, so that we can put our latch across it. Next is the door and the ramp for the chickens to walk up. I've taken 2x4s, pressure treated 2x4s, and I have notched one of the corners, the thickness of the panel plus about 1/8 of an inch, so that as things want to swell, it doesn't lock up the door. Next thing that we need to do for the coop is make the entrance ramp up to the main door. The level of chip that we have on the base of the coop area is going to vary. And so we want this ramp to be able to move up and down with that variable chip level. And so we're going to install hinges on this side where it will attach beneath the door so that the other side can move up and down with that variable chip. All right, chicken ramp is done. Now you will notice that the coloring on this is very different. I just used a bunch of scrap pieces because this doesn't need to be super structural. And if it falls apart, we'll just quickly make another one. So just, again, scrap pieces that I had lying around. The next thing is we need to put in some perches where the chickens can roost at night. We've got some 2x4s. These are pressure treated. I got pressure treated because they're gonna defecate on them and I don't want them to rot away quite as quickly. Already cut them to length. We just need to install them. Gonna install them at 2 different heights so that they can go from the lower one to the higher one. And sometimes there's a hierarchy in the hens, and so we need to have 2 heights just to support that natural instincts that they have. So right now we're going to work on subdividing the nesting boxes. Right now it's about a 7-foot long space, and we're going to subdivide it into 7 spaces approximately 1 foot wide. Now, one of the things that we found in Colorado is that the hens preferred to lay when they had a nice enclosed box. If it was open on the sides, they didn't really like to lay in those boxes. So the first thing that we're going to do is on these 2 pieces of structure, we're going to attach some paneling, and that will subdivide it into 3 areas, and then we'll subdivide those into smaller areas, like I said, approximately 1 foot wide. I've already cut the paneling, and these are not structural, and so they don't have to be pretty. And we're just going to be using some scrap paneling. And so in this case, I've actually got 2 pieces that when we Put them on top of one another. We'll block off that opening. And like I said, subdivide this box. All right, so now instead of one huge nesting box, we've got 3 still large but smaller nesting boxes. Those dividers were the easy ones. For the other dividers, it's going to be a little harder because there's no structure to attach them to. So we're going to have to build some structure, and then we'll have the subdividers that will go into that. All right, we're ready to put in the divider for the smaller of the 3 nesting boxes. These are about 2 foot wide, so we're going to subdivide them into 2 1-foot boxes. I've made some supports for the divider. These have a 3/8 groove that I cut in them that the divider can sit in. Again, this isn't structural, so it doesn't have to be attached. It just doesn't want to flop around as they're coming in and out. So I'm going to take one of these and attach it to the side, and then I'll take the other one and attach it to the bottom, and then the divider will sit in those grooves. All right, so we got one divider in, we'll get the other 3 in, and then we'll have all of the nesting boxes divided. So with that, we have a minimum viable solution for our chicken coop. If we were selling this, was what would be called a minimum viable product, or MVP. We now have something that we can put chickens in, they can lay their eggs, we can feed them, they are somewhat protected, and so this is the minimum solution that we can do in order to have chickens. Now, we're going to be doing a lot of enhancements to this chicken coop for both security and ease of use, and we'll be talking about that in future videos. But for now, this is Lumberjack with Barely Homesteading, saying use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.